Good morning, afternoon, evening. Welcome to the latest webinar presented by Aerospace Tech Review, Digital Tools, Big Changes Ahead for Airlines and MROs. My name is Neil Walker, Conference and Marketing Director for Aerospace Tech Week and Aerospace Tech Review. Before we start, I'd like to point out the Q&A tab on the top right-hand side of your screen. You can ask questions at any time during the webinar, and we'll try to answer as many as possible at the end. If at any time your screen freezes, please refresh and you should automatically rejoin us. Airlines and Maintenance, Repair and Overhaul, MRO companies, are making big changes to their digital capabilities in order to be successful in a post-COVID environment. New challenges are emerging that must be jointly prioritized by both airlines and MROs. By 2032, global MRO spending should reach $126 billion, up from $79 billion in 2022. Airlines and MROs have spent the past 2 years revamping operations to counter COVID-related challenges that included thousands of aircraft being parked or retired, revenue streams being disrupted, supply chains broken, and operations being run remotely. With COVID-related restrictions easing and flights rapidly rebounding, we're seeing immense challenges to the airline industry in ramping back up in order to cope with the huge rebound in demand for air travel, from severe staff shortages to supply chain issues. The resurgence of aviation will require built digital tools that will allow airlines and MROs to maximize their probability of success. There are various kinds of IT innovations integrated into MRO, with the advent of digitalization, such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data analytics, digital twins, cloud-based software, ETLs, mobile apps, connected aircraft, and other advanced and disruptive technologies. This growing digitalization of activities among airlines and MROs is rapidly increasing software penetration across the global aviation industry. We're joined today by Delta Airlines and eMpower MX as we explore how airlines and MRO companies utilize IT systems to digitally transform and extract efficiencies for their daily operations. So I'm going to hand over to Tom Davis, Chief Commercial Officer at eMpower MX, who's going to moderate today's webinar. Tom, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the almost 200 people covering literally every continent except Antarctica. We sincerely appreciate you joining us. I'm going to ask some questions of our two guests today. Following that, Levi Schmidt will walk you through some detailed slides that build upon the questions, and then we'll have plenty of question time at the end for open question and answer. So please, as we go along, put your questions into the question element. So without further ado, Bruce, base manager may have different definitions for different airlines. Can you please provide us with an elevator speech about what your job entails and how you measure success?
All right. Good morning, good afternoon to the team, and thank you for joining. Airframe supplier operations, we have a general manager, and then we have 9 station managers. I'm based out of Atlanta, and I'm support for the 12 essential maintenance providers that we have around the globe. And my key functions here in Atlanta is providing planning support, and then any liaison work that we need to do here in Atlanta for those other sites.
Thank you so much, Bruce. And again, we really appreciate you joining us. I mean, having somebody with, arguably the world's largest airline working out of what's known as the busiest airport, we can see behind you a lot of activity and a lot of action. So again, we know that you're a guy who's got a hectic schedule. Thanks so much for joining.
Right. Well, and measuring success, I believe that success for me here at the airline is ensuring that we have safe and reliable airplanes at the gate on time with minimum to no delays or impacts to our customers, to make sure that they get to whatever their destination is, whether it's Disney World or Grandma or the beach or the mountain resorts, whatever that is. Certainly love to see a smile on people's face when they board an aircraft on time. That's success.
Perfect. Levi, Your photo looks a little bit like a mug shot, or is it just that you're a naturally angry guy? Managing Director of Customer Excellence sounds extremely impressive. Can you explain your primary responsibilities with Empower MX?
Thanks, Tom. Welcome, everybody. My primary role at Empower MX, it branches out to a few different things. So number one is existing customer accounts, making sure that everybody's satisfied with the support that they're getting, that the product development path is what's going to work the best for airlines, just like Bruce and Delta here. So that's top priority. Secondary priority is to evaluate, again, what is the most value add product initiatives that we're going to take as an organization, and then any kind of ancillary support through marketing and so on.
Terrific. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, let's move into some of the more in-depth questions. So, Bruce, how much maintenance and what types would you say is in work regularly when it comes to the Delta fleet?
That's a great question. During our season that we do maintenance, we'll have 40 to 45 letter checks in work at our central maintenance providers outside of the four walls of Delta. Inside the four walls of Delta on the heavy checks, we'll have 6 to 10 lines running. In addition to that, we do RONs and RADs, which is remain all night, remain all day. We have special visits, reliability visits, gear visits, prior to service, paint. We have C checks through M checks, which can count for 6 days up to 42 days of maintenance. Um, at our central maintenance providers, we have 12 central maintenance providers, and then we have 3 that's a relief valve for us that can do some extra work if we get into a pinch. Uh, in our Super Bowl season, which what we call our primary flying season, that's June to August. We'll slim that down to about 15 to 20 letter checks outside, and then we primarily run our base maintenance station in Atlanta and Minneapolis as line support. So we scale back a lot during that Super Bowl flying season.
Helpful. So obviously, when an airplane's in the air, it's a profit center. Inversely, when it's in maintenance, like you just spoke about, it's a cost center. How do you rank the importance of managing these activities for your organization?
So managing them for Delta Airlines is very key and important to our operation. I'd say that we operate with the fewest amount of spares of all the mainline carriers. We only have 20 to 25 operational spares at any given time that we operate with. Now at Tech Ops, we have very different levers that we can pull with maintenance spares to kind of backfill the operation spares. So for us, managing these visits with very little green time gives us very little time for any mishaps, if you will, or visits to go long. So we have to stay on top of them. So the importance of managing these visits is very key to the Delta operation, the way that we operate. And that was pre-COVID numbers. 85 to 90% of the checks is what kind of green time we use. Post that, trying to get back into the cadence there, we're about 75% of the green time to get the scale back to where we want it, where we have a good operational plan.
That sounds incredibly complex. Obviously, the importance of effectively managing all of those activities, pretty big deal, Bruce.
Right. Yeah. So for us, operating with the very few spares that we have and the different levers that we have, it's certainly key to our operation. We certainly begin with the end in mind. We work closely and partner with our EMPs. We certainly don't want any of them to fail. So we view them as a partner. So we do a lot of legwork on the front side with the pre-planning to make sure that we have a good executable plan going into that. We have leading indicators that we use, which we'll talk a little bit more of, I believe, when we get into some of the insight. But for us, we certainly have to begin with the end in mind and have a good, solid plan to execute. And we have to have those leading indicators that help us to manage those anomalies so that we're not reactive. We certainly want to be proactive.
Got it. So again, understanding the size of your fleet, the complexity of your fleet. I mean, it seems like Delta flies just about everything under the sun. So when you consider, the volume of work and the importance of effectively managing it, could you describe, some of the historic tools that are in place and how effective they are when it comes to oversight and constraint management as it relates to your daily operations?
Yeah, that's a good question, and certainly we've had to put some tools in place to help us to be proactive. We start looking at uh, uh, our visits about 60 days out. What does that work scope look like? Um, and we look at anything that's high risk for us that could have potential fallout, drive critical parts, parts that don't that have long lead times, anything that has caused us problems from an engineering standpoint, so that we can certainly get in front of that. So we do a high risk assessment. Um, we use a comp tool, we call it. So after the initial inspection, we go in and we measure the visit in comparison to other visits to see if it's going to be right in line on an average. If it drives a higher card count, so that may be a problematic aircraft, um, or it may be a lighter aircraft. So we kind of use that as our first gauge after the initial inspection, and if there's any significant findings in areas that have given us problems. After that, we do a mid-course review. So if it's a 20-day visit, for instance, at 10 days, we do a detailed deep dive into the visit. Again, looking at where we're at on the inspection completion, any material constraints or concerns, engineering items that we have from a significant finding that we need, and if there's any additional parts or any support from machine shop or any other specialty groups that would need to jump in and help us out. We measure our milestone adherence to plan. So we look at, we call it a DMAT tool. So we look at what we started out with as our major milestones, if we've had to add a milestone because of a significant finding, and then we look to see if we're hitting those targets on our milestones. Another tool we use that we watch on a regular basis is our burn rate. So we look at our card burn, and we know that if a site can, on average, close about 40 cards a day, we can tell if they're on or off plan. And that tool kind of tells us, based on their behavior, if they're closing 38 cards a day, what that predicts to look like as far as an MRT push. So that's something that we look at very closely. And again, these are just tools that are all independent. So we have to go to several different places at several different times to give us kind of what that looks like. So it's a little cumbersome, labor intensive. And sometimes you get caught up in the operation, you don't look at those, and you don't see those leading indicators until it's a little bit too late. So certainly looking to put all that into one place, if we will, to give us a better view, to help us make better decisions faster and where we need to, and not what we think.
That's helpful, and boy, that sounds complex. That must take just an army of folks to execute. So, as a Delta Platinum flyer for the last decade, I appreciate the fact that I'm almost always on time. So thank you for the miracles you work. Levi, are you still awake there? You seem to kind of be loafing a little bit while Bruce is doing all the heavy lifting here. Can you give us an elevator speech about the product that Bruce just mentioned, as well as name a few of Delta's vendors that use some of the EMX products?
Sure. So the product that they're using in-house and a lot of their vendors is the EmpowerMex MRO Manager, and that really helps actually execute the stuff in dock, the cards that are due for that maintenance visit, being able to work those in the appropriate order with deadlines. It's milestone driven, task card groups, start dates, estimates, actuals. So it's a really good visibility tracking tool to make sure that the check is being executed in the best way possible. Delta uses it at their at their MSP facility and their Atlanta facility, and the majority of their vendors use it. I think the only two exceptions that don't use it is Singapore Technologies, Guangzhou, that's in China, and ATS. With the exception of that, all of the vendors use the application. So you think MROH, Flightstar, North State, they use EmpowerMX. TechOps Mexico in Querétaro uses EmpowerMX. Aeromon, they don't use it yet, but they do have rollout plans because they're part of that MROH network. Mexicana uses EmpowerMX. They're a provider for Delta as well. So you can see that when it comes to actually executing those checks, they got a great platform, and the majority of the vendors, including themselves, are using this platform. So it's a great opportunity when we talk about the challenges that face them today.
Terrific. Thank you, Levi. Back to you, Bruce. So sounds like Delta and most of your heavy maintenance vendors are either currently or will soon be in the EMX or EmpowerMX ecosystem. So when it comes to getting status reports, inputting that into an oversight system, where would you say the gaps exist today for your operation?
Well, I'd say the gaps, certainly with the non-EmpowerMX users, gives us the biggest risk because we don't have real-time information. As Levi mentioned, the majority of our EMPs are on the EMX platform. I don't have to go in and ask the site managers questions. I don't have to call anybody on a different hour platform than us to ask, where we're at on a visit. If I have questions, I can look at that visit in EmpowerMX real time, and that certainly helps us to make better decisions. So, we're excited about the folks that are not on Empower platform looking to get on Empower, especially where we have the bigger volumes of work at Aeroman, for instance. And Empower for us, again, it gives us real-time information, whether it's customer approvals for overcap hours or overcap materials. It queues us up right then, and we don't have to wait on somebody to bring that up there if they get sidetracked or pulled into some other project or some other fire drill, and it delays anything. We see all that real time, and I believe that protects both parties. It protects the Delta team here, and it protects our partners at the EMPs to make those real-time decisions and to see those outliers. Again, when we brief our aircraft, all the information is in EmpowerMX in that platform. We can see the card counts that are there, any critical factors that are there. But again, we have to go into that platform and kind of search for that to see it. But on our status page, status graph, we can see the milestones and if anything is red or yellow coming up. So if it's a potential problem or a past problem, we can see that in real time. That certainly helps us.
That's helpful. Thank you, Bruce. So it would seem as though, getting the data, building the status reports, submitting that to the airline, it's got to be a pretty taxing duty for the project management team that presumably you'd prefer that they had that time to focus on managing the constraints of their projects instead. Presumably the same for the customer representatives consuming this information and transcribing it into your organization's systems. What are your thoughts on that?
So that's really a great question. So for us, once we build the templates in EmpowerMX, and we can build them here in Atlanta, and we can take that in an ad hoc report, and we can share that across even our MROs. So we can take lessons learned from in-house visits and take them to our partners at the EMPs. And on the EMP platforms, we partnered with them to where we can help them build project plans, mirror that from Microsoft Project into the Empower platform. And then you just manage that and you tweak it in, and you can replicate that visit again and again and again to where you just make minor changes and you're not rebuilding it from ground up every visit on the wall, sorting everything out. It's all built into the Empower MX platform. So the only thing you're really managing is any significant finding or any outlier, any new task that's coming in. So you're really very little project management on the front side. You just have to review that, and then when you get into the execution phase, if you need to tweak some things around, it certainly helps you, and it builds that repeatability, if you will, and you get a lot of greater goods from that. And again, it's a wonderful platform, and helping some of our partners that are just starting up with EmpowerMX, for instance, Mexicana just come online this year, and so did Flightstar. We were able to take lessons learned from the Delta with some of our instructional guides and our playbook, if you will. We were able to take that to them and fast track them on their startup with EmpowerMX, and to help them with building those repeatable plans. And again, anything we can help them with helps us on the backside. So we certainly treat them as partners for sure, just like anybody else.
So Levi mentioned previously there's a couple of folks who aren't in the ecosystem. Presumably those folks that aren't were in the system where you can't get the data automatically. It would seem as though that would be riddled with opportunities for errors, potentially even, providing numbers that are more hopes, wishes, and prayers as opposed to, the automatic data coming out of the system. What are your thoughts on the validity and the reliability of the data being processed for oversights in these projects, especially when it's, coming from a spreadsheet or something?
Let me quote Sir John Harvey for you. Planning is an unnatural process. It's much more fun to do something. The nicest thing about not planning is that failure comes as a complete surprise rather than being preceded by a period of worry and depression. All right. I have that right here at my desk, and I look at that quite often. Now, in all seriousness, nobody wants to give you bad news. And everybody hopes that they can get their way out of a problem. So when you start having milestones, when you start having tasks, when you start having problems on the front side of an airplane, it generally doesn't get better. You just stay the course and you try to mitigate or minimize the impact. So the sooner you can get upstream, the sooner you can pull levers to kind of help course correct and get things back on plan, and certainly minimize. Again, everybody thinks they can work their way out of it, or they can recover and build a recovery plan without having to come clean and without telling you on the front side. But it generally doesn't have good results. Trying to manage it yourself and not ask for help, whether it's through a pride deal, whether it's a culture of just not wanting confrontation. There's a lot of reasons why people doesn't self-disclose or ask for help or raise their hand or say that they're in trouble. So when you have leading indicators that help you to drive to the right question at the right time, the further upstream you can get it, the better off you are. Because once you ask the question, people generally are not going to they're not going to tell you a lie or be untruthful about things. They just don't want to bring that message up on the front side. As much as we ask them, it's not good news, it's not bad news, it's just the news, and we want you to report the news. They just sometimes think they can solve the problem themselves, and then they get themselves even dug down deeper. And we just like to think of it as a duck analogy. If you look at a duck floating on top of the water, they're calm, cool, collected, but underneath, man, they're just paddling, and you don't see that. You just see the calm, collective, cute little duck on top. So we certainly don't want any of our partners to be in that analogy, and we want to help them. And if we can see it on the front side, the earlier we see it, the more help we can get them, and they're not paddling like crazy underneath trying to solve it themselves.
That's really helpful, very insightful. Thank you. Regarding the depth of the insight that you get from the current tools and methods, kind of building upon what you just said, how well do things start indicating in advance? And is there usually adequate time to address the problems as they arise?
Well, again, with as many aircraft as we have in check, and we operate with, again, as you mentioned, probably the most diverse fleet in the organization. Um, you know, the answer to your question is no, and that's really the reason that we partner with Empower MX to build it in the insight tool. Again, we have a lot of leading indicators. We have very knowledgeable staff that's on site looking at these airplanes. But again, when things get off the rail, if you don't see it immediately and you're not right there, you've lost 24 hours, 48 hours. And if that's part of the critical path, you absolutely cannot gain that back. So if that's tied to that lineage of work, there's no recovering from that. It's just an impact that you have to solve for downstream. So the sooner we see a problem or an opportunity to get in front of something that's going to create some type of impact to the critical path, the better we are. So um, certainly a reason that we asked Empower MX if there was some way we could put the pertinent information in one place, and that's kind of where the birth of the insight come from.
Perfect. Thank you. So I guess from a current status, not where we're going with insights, and for those on the line, we'll explain a lot more about this insights tool that we're talking about when Levi jumps into the presentation. But when things look like they're heading in the wrong direction today, how much ability is there to really deep dive into your reports, to pinpoint constraints and to take effective actions?
That's another great question. And for the non-Empower MX users, we rely on a daily meeting and a report that they provide for us. And again, they provide the information that they want you to see. Because if there's kind of a problem, they think they can manage through it. So sometimes they may be late reporting that to you and coming clean unless you witness it firsthand and you ask the questions. So in the RMX tool, again, we can see the milestones that are coming due. We can see the critical factors. We can see the information, but we have to go look for it. The non-Empower MX users, again, we rely on the information they give us and that they tell us unless we actually see it. So it's pretty difficult when you look at it until you get into some of the leading indicators that start to rear their head. And then sometimes that's, a day late and a dollar short, and now you're being reactive, and we certainly don't want to do that. We want to be proactive in that approach.
Thank you. Hey, Levi, back to you. You still awake there?
Yes, sir.
All right. So at MRO Americas, your CEO, along with the heads of maintenance for both Delta and American, announced something called Insights, which we've spoken a little bit about today, which is supposed to address many of the issues that Bruce has highlighted. Can you remind us of the Insights vision and provide us a quick status?
Absolutely. And to lead it off with a quote to supplement Bruce there, Embraer at the 2020 IATA conference, they used their own quote when they talked about implementing Empower MX, and it was Suhail Doshi, and his statement was, most of the world will make decisions by either guessing or using their gut. They will either be lucky or wrong. So Insights, and at that session that we had at MRO Americas, Insights is aimed to tap into really rich and powerful data sets. So what Bruce will oftentimes see is as a check that's very repetitive on a schedule. You have multiple maintenance visits that look and feel very similar to one another. The card makeup very similar to one another. Non-routine follow-up a lot of times is very similar. And what they're looking to understand is the variance from normal, right? So like normal distribution, right? Is your card count, like you mentioned earlier, is the card count higher than what it normally is for this station, for this check type? And if it is, then they know they potentially have problems. But what tools, bring that information to them without having to build it up or to rely on reports coming from the maintenance providers? So that's what Insights is aiming to accomplish. Collect that data automatically where it can, allow it to be supplemented where it can't. Say you have a non-EmpowerMX user right now, to be able to input data into that data stream, and then to report analytically to back up what that project manager is stating for the status of that aircraft. And that goes to critical factors, materials, engineering, a multitude of things. And it also forecasts the current delivery trend based on those KPIs that we're looking at.
Wow, that was quite a mouthful. You obviously were awake. You must have had an energy drink or something this morning. Bruce, last question to you, and then we'll get into the presentation. And again, for folks that are listening in, don't hesitate to start popping questions into the window. Levi's presentation will hopefully answer a lot of those, but again, we should have plenty of time at the end for questions for Levi and Bruce. So Bruce, last question to you, relative to the issues you've highlighted today and the inefficiency of historic tools and processes to meet your organizational needs. How bullish are you on Insight's ability to address these challenges?
So we've been partnered with EmpowerMX to get Insight up and running. And I can tell you that Levi and I and the EmpowerMX team have spent countless hours working through some of the bugs and going through some of the testing and putting everything into place. And I can tell you that, I, for one, being really the planning front for our team here in Delta Tech Ops for our outsourced maintenance, we're super excited about it. And to be honest with you, it can't come soon enough. It's certainly going to help us get in front of some things, the challenges that we have at the non-EmpowerMX users as well as the EmpowerMX users, to be able to ask the right questions at the right time, before the problem really gets worsened, so that we can keep these things at bay. Again, it's just another lever that we're excited about having to help us to make better decisions earlier. So again, can't come soon enough for us.
Yeah, it really seems like it's going to be a terrific way to have everybody have a single source of truth, and a lot of top-notch resources that now are running the floor, writing reports, sending emails. We'll be able to redeploy them on both the airline side as well as the heavy check side to doing more value-added activities.
Yeah, when we have the same look and feel inside of Delta and Atlanta, Minneapolis, as we do our essential maintenance providers, we share a lot of data and lessons learned internally, externally, back and forth. So it certainly puts all that information in one place, so that we and the Atlanta team that are kind of helping all the other facilities, including internally here at Delta. It helps us to kind of manage our day-to-day and where we need to really focus our attention on without losing sight of potential problems when we see them creeping up. It's just going to give us a tool to make better decisions faster and really take that proactive approach and not the reactive approach.
Awesome. So with that input, I want to sincerely thank Bruce Berry for his usual candid answers, and ask Levi to take us through, again, a quick overview and status on Insight's development and deployment before we then open the forum up for questions. So with that, I'm going to bid you adieu. And again, to everybody in the audience from every continent except Antarctica, which was confirmed in the chat window, please start putting in your questions. The harder the questions, the better, and we'll go from there. Thank you, everyone, wherever you are in the world, for joining. Levi, off to you.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, so our goal here, and this is through extensive collaboration with Bruce and Delta Airlines, also from collaboration with American Airlines. They couldn't miss the opportunity, so they've been instrumental as well. The goal here is to support our partners by digitally transforming the process that the vendor management currently does. So where to start? As we covered earlier, there is a pretty broad network of EmpowerMX users today, just like Delta's case that can be replicated for multiple major airlines. So as you see the green here, this is just an example, but those are EmpowerMX vendors, and the red would be non-EmpowerMX vendors at this time, though some right now. So it's naturally a strong starting place for a solution. This is a bit of a process map that Bruce has outlined. So the facilities, you're going to see multiple. You'll have airline facilities that do their own work, plus MROs that they're going to rely on for work as well. It can be as many as 40 outsourced lines of maintenance, as was said. So there's a representation here in EmpowerMX and non-EmpowerMX vendors in any case. In the current, not the to be state, though we're bridging that gap as we speak. But the information would be downloaded from this execution system or an ERP system, whatever that vendor happens to use. And then the project management team will take that information and try to curate that into a status report. That status report will basically be frozen in time, and it'll be sent through an email to customer representatives, at what point the data is almost immediately outdated, and it becomes entered into the oversight system that the airline uses. Like right now, ECOS would be the existing system for Delta. So they input the information. Again, it's outdated upon sending. So you could have a critical factor that could be related to a material, and that could be a normal arrival from FedEx at 10 a.m. every day. It could be read and actioned for resolution at noon, but it's already been closed out 2 hours ago. So that's part of the challenges. Engineering could already be fulfilled, so on and so forth. New critical factors could be identified that don't get relayed until the next 20 hours from now. So then the airline use, you can see there on the right-hand side, it's basically itemization of each aircraft in maintenance, and then status, whether it is on time or off time. Not much depth of knowledge beyond that. Something could be on time, but it could have a critical factor related to material or an engineering, and and that could drive the maintenance visit. So even though it's green, it needs action today. So there is a lack of depth of knowledge. It is top level. You can go get that knowledge, like Bruce said. You can go to, in a lot of instances, most of the vendors that they're using have EmpowerMX. They can go to those sites. They can log in, look at critical factors real time, look at the shortage lists real time. But then, that's another pathway that has to be taken. So there's opportunities, we think, here with the inefficiencies and the timeliness of information, as well as how the information can be optimized. This is a automated future state. So any MRO that uses EmpowerMX, that data, the information that's captured within the execution of that check can be processed automatically, and EmpowerMX can use that as the basis for status reporting of the aircraft, and it can be real-time relevant data. And any non-EmpowerMX users, there is a potential to be able to upload that information as opposed to emailing it. So there is a pathway in which you could have real-time, good, relevant information, but also including anybody that doesn't yet use EmpowerMX. And then from the airline data use side, how to optimize that and have something that is really robust, top level, very good, highlighting critical factors, materials, engineering, whatever that might be, and then layering on that data analytics to forecast where the aircraft is currently trending. We've all seen an aircraft that's on time, and then a day or two before delivery, it's 3 or 4 days late. So what happened? Where the data could have potentially indicated as such. Sometimes you're going to have findings that will be the case that the data may not have identified that would have been more of a critical factor or a late find. But a lot of times the data would have indicated that the aircraft was pacing 3 or 4 days late. And I'd be open to Bruce adding anything to that, but that is a typical occurrence, and it could be supported by data to make it a known situation. So optimizing the data airlines and MROs can use live data, all checks in one place. So they're not just looking at an application that only has EmpowerMX vendors, but it has everything that they're used to seeing in one area. Purpose-built KPIs. an ability to drill down to see those critical factors and to see why that is indicating late. What is the burn down card count, like Bruce mentioned earlier? What is the card burn down compared to last one? So if it's indicating bad, let's look at it. Let's open it up and see how bad that is. Direct project management input. So this is the primary, the primary communication flow is the delivery status, the project manager one-liner. It could be everything's good, no issues at this time, or need the replacement engine by day X in order to support delivery, referred to as the PM one-liner, and then critical factors, which could be, again, material engineering, anything that's going to pace the visit that might not be obvious on the top level. Then to supplement that is these are the critical factors opened up and viewed. In this instance, you can see pylon fairing, heat shield repair, severity is red, impact is the schedule, and this is the task card that it's associated to. Also, delivery changes. So going from 20 days to 21 days, the reason for that, it has to be approved by the operator. And then another one here, bumping it from 21 to 22. So that's another day add. And then the reasoning behind that. The purpose-built KPIs uses a standard deviation foundation, normal distribution. So it revolves around milestone accomplishment, which is your on-time task, which is one thing that Bruce mentioned before when he was talking about critical things that he's looking at. Card burn down was the other thing that was mentioned. Labor application is an obvious need. Our materials being sourced and provided for that visit that they would need to in order to support the redelivery. It's critical factor focused also. So you may have 20 open line items, but maybe only 2 of them are going to be critical for that time frame. You need to have some type of focus. And then the EmpowerMex delivery forecast. So what is that pacing? Is it pacing early? Is it pacing late? How early? How late? So that you can see if you have a drop-in aircraft and you dedicate resources from your main line at that vendor to support that drop-in aircraft, you may not have a TAT revision for that initial mainline aircraft, but the data could suggest it's 4 days, it's pending 4 days late due to that allocation of resources. They might not have firmed up that TAT, but at least it's not going to be tomorrow or the next day, and you have to react now. So you have some type of basis of information beyond that top level. This is the on the upper left. That's your typical labor resource requirements and your milestone completion. So what cards are due when, they're grouped by task groupings. And on the upper right is on-time task completion. So if you have a lot of delayed tasks, it's going to pace the visit. Lower left, open task card counts, and it's got a historical comparison. This station, this type of visit, what do we expect to be at? So 50 cards might be okay for MRO number 1 on delivery day, but 50 cards might not be okay for MRO number 2 on delivery day. So this takes all of that into account. And in this case, you can see it's got a negative KPI there. Open materials, again, need to be requested and fulfilled in a timely manner in order to make that delivery. And again, it's critical factor based too. So it's not just open counts, because it's like open cards. It doesn't necessarily mean if you have 20 open items that 20 of them are going to pace the visit. Could be only 2. It is live today, MRO Insights, and we do have kind of an exclusive group of folks that are working with us right now to optimize the solution. 3 major airlines, 2 of them you see here on this slide deck, 1 that will be announced soon. So with that, I would like to open it up to some Q&A, and Bruce, feel free to jump in here anytime you like to. The first question that I have in the Q&A is that Insight seems like a pretty exclusive club at present, and he plans to expand the venture participants. It is an exclusive club right now. We want to make sure through beta testing that we have the very best solution, and to avoid any unnecessary distractions is going to be important to making sure that we're able to collaboratively work on the best solution with Delta. I'm sure Bruce is excited to hear that answer.
Yeah, I can tell you, partnering with EmpowerMex to build this platform is certainly going to help us. As I mentioned, we operate with probably the fewest amount of spare aircraft. And when we can make a decision, if we're in Tecos, Mexico, down in Querétaro, we have 10 to 12 lines of aircraft running down there. And if we have one line that's running late or has a potential problem, we could potentially move resources or engineering support or whatever that need is over to another line if there's more health in that line, um, or less health in that line, to catch that aircraft up with the least amount of impact. So it helps us to make those decisions that protects our overall operation, not just our individual KPIs at that station or on that line. So it certainly helps us to pull levers real time to get where we need to be. So we're excited to be partnered up with you and be part of that exclusive club. That's for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I do, Bruce. And then next question here is, who currently uses EMX Insights? As you can see from the slide, there's two that are public, which is Delta and American has adoption plans. So we're going through the adoption implementation with both parties right now. That is not complete, but it is in work, and there are some live aircraft that are in the system able to be seen. And there is another major airline that we just can't announce yet. It may or may not be in the United States, like the two that we currently have listed here are. And we think they're going to be another very instrumental partner in this through beta testing. Third question, I clearly understand the value for the airlines. Please refresh my memory on the value for MROs. Potential answer: automated critical info transfer to eliminate the need to allocate to talented tasks, position MROs for growth at Delta, American, and likely to top airlines in the future. On the MRO side, there is clear value. As a standalone MRO without a reporting structure to a major airline, I would most certainly use this information. It's incredible information to have detailed insights as to where each line in your operation is. If you have 10 airlines and you got top level great executive information on each, what critical items are pacing for each one of those that you can address and that day that's real time would be incredibly valuable. And as far as positioning for growth, I do know that Delta and American actively seek providers that do use EmpowerMex because they get real-time settlements, approvals, critical factors, status of milestone and task completions. So there is a great position to partner with Delta and American if you're using what is an optimal solution for your maintenance. Bruce, if you want to comment on that at all, your preference on vendors and the systems that they use and the differences that you see.
Ask that question in a different way, if you don't mind.
Automating, I would say automating critical factors, position MROs for growth with Delta. And to me, the question seems centered around the use of EmpowerMex.
Well, I would just say that for us, as I mentioned, within EmpowerMex users, it helps us to see more real time. Instead of having things pushed to us, we can pull information out, and it helps us to make better decisions. And whether it's card approval, whether it's material overcap approvals, whether it's looking for the critical factors and if they're actually actioned or what the next plan of action is, across the board, it helps us to see multiple facets of a visit and make better decisions faster within the Empower system.
Nice, thank you. Fourth question. Hello there. Could you please provide advice for retaining customers' loyalty? That is actually a key role that I fill, and part of that was acknowledging that Bruce and Delta had a need, and then working together to try to create a solution that helps with that need. And it doesn't just go to broader new applications. It's in the maintenance execution application itself, or it's in electronic task cards, on the job training record, traceability in the execution system, reading signs, to have reading signs built within the system as opposed to having to use emails. There's a lot of things that we do and we take on just based on our customers' desires. And that really helps for retaining customers' loyalty. Bruce, any comments on that?
Well, I would just say that when we see an opportunity for improvement, partnering with EmpowerMax through the years, we've certainly grown together, and I see that as a partnership and not just an individual contributor. So you listen to us. We have group discussions, not just with Delta and EmpowerMax, but other airlines, because a lot of what we see and what they see is lessons learned that we can apply across the board that helps all of us. I believe being on the cloud system, certainly from a security standpoint, that shows a whole lot from a loyalty standpoint. I think that one of the next evolutions, if you will, for us is the hyperlinks that we can build in, so that when we put the manual references in, it can link to our back tables in the Citrix, which is where our manuals live. And then you have live up to date, current revision at your fingertips that you can pull up from that. So these are all, actions and ideas that we come up with that EmpowerMex has helped a solution to give us, again, information at our fingertips, real time, real quick, and not have to lose efficiencies. So, yeah, loyalty, I think, it is a partnership that EmpowerMX um, platforms and prides herself in with their customers.
Thank you. Is there an MRO in Argentina or Chile using EmpowerMX? Off the top of my head, Argentina or Chile do not ring a bell, but there are multiple Latin American customers. So it may just not be present in Argentina or Chile currently, but there are many in the region. I'll give it just a couple, just a minute or so if anybody wants to drop in another question. I don't have any additional questions, though I'm very open to answering any questions that you all may have. So I'll just give it just a minute here. Let somebody pop in a last minute question.
All right there, Levi. It sounds like you may have answered all of the questions during your presentation discussion as well. So hopefully we're good there, and that's brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you also to Bruce and Tom for interesting, insightful discussion and presentation. And we hope everyone else enjoyed it as well and found it as equally informative. So thanks very much, guys. And also to our audience, thank you. And just to remind you that the new Aerospace Tech Week Americas exhibition and conference will take place on the 8th and 9th of November in Atlanta in the US, where registration is currently open. Conference early bird rate is to the 8th of October, so book now and save on your conference delegate pass. And you can also register for a free expo pass at www.aerospace-tech-week.com/Americas. The Aerospace Tech Week Europe moves from Toulouse to Munich and will be held on the 29th and 30th of March 2023. The call for papers is now open. It closes actually next week. So if you want to submit your abstract, please do at aerospace-tech-week.com/Europe. And you can also keep a lookout for the next webinar from the Aerospace Tech Review at aerospace-tech-review.com. But for now, thank you very much. Thanks again to the Aerospace Media team, our sponsors EmpowerMX, Bruce, Levi, and Tom for today's webinar. Most importantly, thank you to you all for joining us for today, and look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you all. Appreciate the time and the opportunity.
Cheers.